We all talk about wanting to feel joy and happiness, right? But what if I told you the way we usually think about it is, well, kind of wrong? It's not just some splash of happy chemicals in your brain. Today, we're going to dig into some amazing research that shows joy is something your brain actively builds.
All right, let's just jump right in by tackling a huge misconception. For decades, we've all heard the story on the left, right? That joy is just this simple chemical reaction. But the real neuroscience, what you see on the right, it tells a way more interesting story. It's not about chemicals, it's about architecture. Your brain is literally building the feeling of joy moment by moment based on how its circuits are wired.
So to really get our heads around this new science, we first have to unpack the old story. Let's take a look at where this whole chemical soup idea came from, and more importantly, why modern neuroscience says it's actually holding us back.
You know, this whole idea of happiness hormones, it was just so simple, right? Super catchy, easy to understand, easy for advertisers to sell. Pretty soon, everyone was talking about getting their next dopamine hit. The problem is, while it's a nice, tidy little story, it's a massive oversimplification of what is actually going on inside our heads.
So, is it really that simple? Well, the short answer from modern systems neuroscience is a big, resounding no. While chemicals definitely play a part, they are not the main characters in this story. The real magic, it turns out, is in the brain's structure and the dynamic way it works.
Okay, so if it's not a chemical soup, then what is it? This is where we get to the really cool stuff. The idea of joy architecture. We're going to completely shift our thinking here, moving away from the world of chemistry and into the world of construction.
At the absolute heart of this process are these circuits called thalamo-cortical loops. Now, I know that's a mouthful, but think of it this way. The thalamus is like Grand Central Station for all the information coming into your brain. And the cortex? That's the conscious part of your brain where you actually feel things. So the thalamus acts as the station manager, deciding which of these positive signal trains get express service straight to the cortex. And this right here, this is the big idea for our whole explainer. Your brain isn't just mixing up a potion of joy, it's meticulously designing and building the entire experience from the ground up using its electrical circuits and pathways.
So, how does this brain architect actually do its job? Well, the research gives us a surprisingly clear blueprint, and it's built on 4 foundational pillars that explain exactly how your brain finds, filters, and prioritizes all the good stuff.
And here's the thing, this isn't just one single event. It's actually a 4-step process. As you can see, it starts by filtering all the incoming information. Then it amplifies what's important. Then it creates the conscious feeling of joy. And finally, it actually learns from the whole experience. So let's break down each one of these pillars.
First up, pillar number 1, sensory gating. Now, in simple terms, you can think of this as your brain's bouncer. It's the first line of defense against being totally overwhelmed, and it's the first big step towards focusing on what's good.
So imagine the thalamus as a bouncer at a really exclusive club. It's standing at the door, taking in all the sights, sounds, and feelings coming from the world, and it's making split-second decisions. It lets the positive, rewarding signals straight through to the VIP lounge, while politely turning away all the neutral or negative noise at the door. Okay, so the positive signal made it past the bouncer, it's inside the club. Now it's time for pillar 2, thalamic modulation. This is where the brain decides if that signal is just some background music or if it's the main event.
Now get this. Most of the time, our brain cells are in what's called tonic firing mode. Think of it as a steady, quiet hum in the background. But when the thalamus detects something really positive and important, like seeing the face of someone you love or hearing amazing news, it switches into burst firing. And that is like cranking the volume knob all the way up to 11, sending this powerful, unmissable signal to the rest of the brain.
So the volume has been cranked up. That powerful signal now arrives at its final destination, which leads us to pillar 3, cortical amplification. This is the truly magical step where a simple electrical signal gets transformed into that rich, conscious feeling we actually call joy.
So that signal hits the main stage, these key areas in the front of your brain. And these areas, they act like a master DJ. They don't just play the signal as is. They mix it with your memories, your current mood, your goals. This expert mixing creates a synchronized wave of brain activity, what scientists call gamma synchrony, which is basically the neurological signature of you consciously feeling good.
But wait, the process doesn't stop there, because the brain, it's a learning machine. And that brings us to our final pillar, integrative feedback. This is how the brain takes notes on what just happened, so it can get even better at creating joy in the future.
What's so amazing here is that this is a learning system. Every single time you experience joy, it's like you're paving a highway in your brain. Through a process called neuroplasticity, your brain physically strengthens these positive connections. The more you travel down this joy highway, the wider and smoother it gets, making it that much easier to access that amazing feeling next time.
So, this is all super interesting science, right? But what does it actually mean for us? It turns out it has huge implications for how we understand and approach our own mental health and well-being.
Yeah, this architectural model has some powerful real-world implications. First off, it helps explain resilience. People with stronger, more efficient joy highways just plain report higher well-being. It also gives us a new way to look at something like depression, suggesting it might not just be a chemical imbalance, but maybe a breakdown in this very construction process. And what's really exciting is it points toward new treatments, showing how things like mindfulness or certain therapies might actually work by helping us physically strengthen these positive pathways in our brains.
All right, let's bring this all together with what I think is the most powerful and empowering takeaway from this entire field of research. This quote from the research really just says it all. Joy isn't just something that happens to you. It's an active process. It is the result of your brain prioritizing positive information to literally construct a more affirming reality for you to live in.
And that leaves us with a final, really empowering thought. If your brain builds joy based on the signals it chooses to prioritize, then maybe becoming a better architect of your own joy is about intentionally choosing what signals you focus on. What practices, from gratitude to mindfulness, could help you train your brain to pave those joy highways? That is the amazing possibility this new science gives us. Thanks for watching.